All right, guys. Today we're gonna be reacting to You Won't Believe What the Post-Debate Polls Are Saying. Let's jump in. Trump is so funny. He's socially aware. That's what it is. He's socially aware to see what's going on.
They love him, gang. The people love him. And as it turns out, so do the post-debate polls. These polls are absolutely flipping out the Democrats after they thought the 3-on-1 debate ambush would finally take out Trump. But alas, it was not to be. The first post-debate polls are indeed dropping, and they are a disaster for Kamala. We're going to see exactly what's really going on here. And to make matters even worse, we're going to see why the latest polls are the least of Kamala's worries. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane polls dropping here. And I just want to set this up by pointing out there was a lot of doom and gloom on X last night as I was staying up into the late hours formerly known as Twitter, of course. And I noticed a lot of good, strong patriot voices out there were really upset, obviously because of the blatant election interference on the part of these so-called moderators at ABC. They have forever, they've completely ruined their careers from this point forward, at least for half the nation, if far more than that. These great patriots, these commentators, they were not particularly happy with the way Trump responded to that sabotage, and especially the way Kamala was able to get away with virtually anything and everything that came out of her mouth. And so many last night felt like the debate was a total loss. Now, in our first video, I give you the overall context for understanding why that's emphatically not what happened last night. In fact, I made the argument, and you may just want to check out the video as a whole, but I made the argument, at least in part, that was looking at this debate as if it were 2012 all over again, or even 2016 or 2020 for that matter. This isn't Candy Crowley fact-checking Mitt Romney mid-sentence, a fact check that she was wrong about, by the way. Those days are over. We are now living in a totally different political and social context right now. It's not just that voters simply don't trust the media anymore. They didn't trust the media much in 2012 or 2016. They really don't trust the media today. All the polls, particularly the Gallup polls for media trust, show that trust and confidence in legacy media is at its literal rock bottom.
Maybe simply because they stopped doing their job, which is just make sure they can just be journalists. That right now they're just a bunch of actors. They're being paid for. They don't even have real journalists doing their own job. So they basically have people giving them the information, and they cannot even check whether or not it's true. So you have these immigrants just being deported, being literally just they throw them right there in the middle of Ohio, and the journalists cannot even check whether or not that's true or not. They can't. They simply can't. So instead of just checking whether or not it's true, they say it's not true. They call like a local police to just check whether or not it was true. It's just so lazy. You just give me a lot of vibe for being elitist.
It has fallen to its lowest
it's like an elitist group
ever. Yes, it is true. Voters still, even more so than in 2012, 2016, 2020, distrust the legacy media. That is true. But it gets far deeper than that. Something's happening today that wasn't happening back then. today, unlike then, we now have massive. They were beginning back in 2016, but now we have massive alternative news networks and information access that completely and totally bypasses the legacy media. So, for example, guess what is one of the top search items on Google right now? I kid you not. Haitians eating pets. Gang, that's freaking gold. Now, of course, that's referring back to Trump bringing up in the debate last night all the eyewitness testimony and video coming out from Springfield, Ohio, showing that Haitian migrants, particularly homeless migrants, are stealing pets and eating them. And it's a visceral visual that, of course, strikes at the heart of the single cat ladies who plan on voting for Kamala. So Trump, of course, was rudely fake fact-checked by the moderators, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore what moderators have to say, because people can go on their cell phones and do their own research, and that is exactly what we're seeing they're doing today, and the trend proves it. Now, again, if you want to get a sense of what's really happening here and how bad it is for Kamala and the regime, take a look at this headline from the New York Times. This actually summarizes it all, frankly, perfectly. Pundits said Harris won the debate. Undecided voters weren't so sure.
That was interesting.
Now, do you notice the pundit people dichotomy there? Even the New York Times is recognizing it. There's a people versus political class divide.
And also what I noticed is when a lot of these headlines, when Trump is leading a lot of this poll, they don't even mention that. They say, what are the current polls and does it look in the current race? But when every time that Kamala Harris is leading, they always don't even wait to say it. If you look at the headlines regarding polls, that's how you see it. They don't even say that Trump is leading when he's leading. It's the craziest thing ever.
It did not exist in 2012 and in 2016 or even in 2020 as staunchly as it does today, especially after the realignment between Trump and Kennedy, the alliance between the populist left and the populist right. And the people versus political class divide, I mean, both sides consume fundamentally different information. The political class consumes the information given to them by the pundit class, the New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, MSNBC, whereas the people are more and more consuming alternative platforms like X that bypass the information gatekeeping of the legacy media. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the post-debate polling. Now, take a look at this from Reuters. This is a focus group of undecided voters. They interviewed 10 undecided voters post-debate last night. 6 of them, 60%, are voting Trump. 3 are backing Harris, and 1 remains undecided. So Reuters is reporting as of this morning that their focus groups show a 2-to-1 swing to Trump. 2-to-1.
Wow.
And so again, with that context, it's very interesting that almost all of the polls that are coming out show that most believe Kamala won the debate, but at the same time, she's losing votes. That's exactly what we saw in the CNN flash poll last night, where Kamala actually lost support on the economy, and Trump.
And that's crazy. Think about it. So the debate in itself is not really. If we are fair, in a fair election cycle, a debate will not hurt. But because we are in very unusual waters, this kind of debate is not going to really help Kamala Harris. She's literally put in a Democratic ticket without casting votes, man. She's unlikable, folks. Even if she performed the debate perfectly, unless you are a diehard Democrat, why would you vote for her? It makes no sense.
Gained support post-debate, even though the majority of viewers thought Kamala Harris won that debate, that sabotage. And it wasn't just the economy. When asked who do you have a lot of confidence in regarding their respective abilities to lead the nation? Trump leads Harris by 4 in the same poll. And I want to remind you, this is a CNN poll. These are CNN viewers. CNN viewers are giving a Trump a near 20-point lead in the economy and a 4-point lead in leadership ability post-debate. This is the pattern we're seeing over and over again. This is what a lot of people just cannot believe about the post-debate polling. But Robert Barnes explains it best, as he usually does. Quote, some are confused by how a poll could show Harris winning the debate but losing votes. The reason is simple. People aren't wanting a president who wins debates. They want a president who makes their lives better. That's why Trump is the true winner of the debate.
Good point. Good point.
But there's something else going on.
Good point.
Well. Something that's going to make these polls the least of Kamala's worries. And that is the election itself. Historian Larry Schweigert has an excellent thread this morning that puts all of this into some pretty amazing perspective. Larry's a brilliant, very astute political analyst, and he's pointing out that in many ways, the results of this election, frankly, they're already baked into the cake. And that's because the debate was too late in the process. The voter registration numbers are already through the roof for Republicans, most especially in the swing states. So Republicans in Arizona are crushing it. Republicans in Arizona have more than doubled their voter registration advantage since 2020. In Florida, remember in 2020, in Florida, Democrats outnumbered Republicans in terms of voter registration by hundreds of thousands. Today, Republicans outnumber Democrats by nearly a freaking million.
That's crazy. That's crazy. We can, if we really understand the long goal, right? The long goal down the line. Even though we have an election, we have to be very, very, very active in the next 4 years after the election. Why is that? Because we want to make sure a lot of these ideas are just established. And then we can just go state by state dealing with the abortion and all that stuff until we make it like a federal mandate. But we cannot just go back as soon as Trump wins. We have to be, on top of things. We have to be on top of things. Make sure that a lot of these ideas, my mission is to make sure that a lot of these ideas are implemented federally, not state by state, federally. State by state is one thing, but federally. Make sure that a lot of these taxes are lower for not only the next 4 years, for the next 20 to 40 years. Make sure that a lot of the illegals, immigrants are just deported completely, man. I want to see 20, 25 million illegals deported, man. I'm going to be honest. It's very dangerous, folks. It's very dangerous. I have kids. I have a family. I cannot even comprehend how people with families can think that this is secure. Unless you have internal bigotry, right? And you want to just compensate by saying that, no, you want more legal immigrants, you're a buffoon. I'm just being honest.
It's a stunning turnaround, and we're seeing something comparable in the Republican voter registration in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Scott Pressler. Scott has been spearheading the flipping of entire counties like Bucks County, where I used to live. That was always a Democrat stronghold. It's a sleepover town or county where the New York crowd lives there because they can't afford anything in Manhattan. It's now majority. Bucks County is now majority Republican. We're seeing the same thing in North Carolina, where Republicans have slashed the Democrat lead in half. And keep in mind, many of those Democrats vote Republican. That's what makes North Carolina Democrats so unique, is they're old school Southern Democrats, many of them who never changed their voter registration.
Because they're not. Hey, this is another thing, man. If you don't educate yourself, this is what happened. You start voting into a certain pattern. You vote because you did patterns, right? You be voting for so many years a certain way, you cannot change. You have to educate yourself, and that way you don't make this mistake. Well, you're a Democrat, but all your lifestyle is just conducive to be a conservative. It's weird. It's weird.
So Trump won North Carolina twice, even with the Democrats having a pretty massive voter registration lead. Well, that's been slashed in half just in the last several months. At the same time, vote by mail requests have imploded for Democrats.
Wow,
They're
90%.
down 90%
That's crazy.
in Georgia, from 800,000 to 80,000.
Wow.
They're down over 60%.
Isn't that
Pennsylvania.
funny,
They're down
huh?
in North Carolina. And then when we look at North Carolina, where early voting's already started, we're finding that the early black vote is down to 11% from the high of 16% in 2020.
Interesting.
And the white vote is up over 70%, and Trump currently enjoys a record double-digit lead among white voters. Now,
Good.
you put that all together, along with the post-debate polls, don't be surprised if you see Kamala's election funds getting pulled in a few weeks and redirected to down-ticket Democrat races to try to stave off
That's interesting.
a complete and total election disaster.
That is interesting. That is actually very interesting. I didn't think about that. So if Kamala does very bad, they can pull out that money from it and just go down to more local races. That's very important. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one.